Hi all, this lesson is going to be lesson 3 of chapter 2, solving inequalities by multiplying or dividing. Now, as how easy the previous lesson was, the same is going to be with this lesson because we already know the rules of multiplying and dividing equations. So we are going to do the same, only we are going to replace the equal sign with an inequality sign. Right, so let's get into the lesson. This already we know. You can solve any inequality just as how you would solve an equation, but replace the equal sign with the inequality sign. So the first example is going to be solve each inequality and graph the solution. So the equation inequality says 3x is greater than negative 27. Now we know 3x means 3 multiplied by x, which means to remove the 3 from here, we need to do the opposite of 3 multiply x. So the opposite of multiply is divide. So either you could say divide both the sides with negative 3, or simply you could say because we need to solve inequality, we can divide this inequality by negative, we can divide this by 3. So the answer for this is going to be x is greater than negative 27 divided by 3. As you know, when the 3 we have to separate them. So if you separate 3 multiplied by x becomes divided by 3 on either side. So this is going to be x is greater than negative 9, because when you divide a negative number with a positive number, your answer will be a negative 1. We have learned this during the lessons of multiplying and dividing equations. So how do we draw this on a number line? Graph this. Start from negative 9. This means the value of x is all greater than 9. So x can be negative 8, it can be negative 7, it can be 6, anything but greater than negative 9. So to show these numbers which are greater than negative 9, that means from 9, I do not circle it, color the circle as it doesn't say equal. Equal means negative 9 will be a solution, but here negative 9 is not a solution. So just to the right, to show all the greater numbers, we draw the arrow to the right side of the number which we marked from. And so one more example, here we have 3 over 4g is greater than 27. What does this mean? 3 over 4g is greater than 27. 3 over 4 multiplied by g is greater than 27. So what do? We do the opposite, that's divide. So we need to divide this either sides of the equation with 27 divided by 3 over 4. Now, well, you know now, during division in fractions, we do follow KCF. So we keep the fraction as this doesn't have a numerator, so we keep the numerator as 1. So we divide, and KCF means keep the first number the same, change the sign, then divide becomes multiply, and flip KCF, keep, change, flip. So we flip the fraction which is there. So 3 over 4 becomes 4 over 3. Now, you can either multiply 4 by 27, that will give you 108. Then you can divide by 3, that will give you a 36. Else, you can simply cancel the numbers from here. You can simplify the numbers within this area. So it's like 3 and 27. There is how many 3's are there in 27? It's like 3 9's. So we can cancel off 3 and 27 and write 9, because 27 divided by 3 is 9. So 9 4's will give us 36. So the answer is going to be same. Either way you do it, the only purpose is you need to get this part solved. However you follow, that's all. So the inequality is going to be g is greater than 36. Well, let's look at one more example. Negative 9a is greater than 81. Okay, so to remove the negative 9 from here, we need to definitely divide the sides of the equation, right? So it's going to be a is going to be less than 81 over negative 9. 81 divided by negative 9. Wait, why did the sign flip here? See, this is greater in the question, but in the next step, I have flipped it. Why did I flip? Because remember, when you are solving inequalities, if you are dividing or multiplying the sides of the inequalities with a negative number, I think we discussed this in lesson 1. So in the video of lesson 1, if you're dividing or multiplying any number, any inequality with a negative number, then you need to flip the sign. Okay, so remember, this is a very important point. When you're solving inequalities, if you are dividing or multiplying by a negative number, then you need to flip the sign. But that doesn't mean if 81 is negative, you will flip it. No, the number with which you are dividing, not the number which you are dividing, the number with which you are dividing is negative, then you will flip the sign. So this is going to be a is less than or a less than negative 9, because 81 divided by negative 9 gives you a negative 9. So this is a very important thing to remember. When you multiply or divide the equation or an inequality, okay, by a negative number, you must reverse the inequality symbol. In fact, it should be inequality and not an equation. So okay, so there you go. When you multiply or divide the inequality by a negative number, you must reverse the inequality symbol. As you can see, the monkey is pointing. The message is very important. So it is important. You need to keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and see one more example. Here we have negative 3x is greater than or equal to 6, which means you need to divide the sides of the equation with a negative 3, because this is negative 3 multiplied by x, right? So that means x is going to be less than or equal to 6 divided by 3, because that's what the message says. If you are dividing or multiplying by a negative number, then you need to flip the sign. As you can see, the sign has flipped. So this is going to be x is less than or equal to negative 2. So this is, I think, the very important part which you need to keep in mind when you're solving the inequality chapter. So let's start practicing. Here are the questions for you. Now, this question says solve each inequality and graph the solution. Now, I say don't graph the solution. If you want, definitely you can go ahead and graph the solution. But we have done already in 2 lessons enough of graphing. So I know by now you must be able to do the graphing. But if you can go ahead and do the graphing, that's fine. But for this part, I'm not going to show you how to graph. I will but rather concentrate on solving the inequalities. Okay, so to start with question number 2. Negative 40 is greater or equal to 8b. Now, 8b means 8 multiplied by b. So we need to divide in order to solve this. Now, keep in mind, I am dividing with a positive number. It is not a negative number. I am going to divide negative 40 with a positive number. If 8 was negative here, then definitely the sign will flip. But here 8 is not negative. I told you already, not the number which you are dividing, the number by which you are dividing. There's a big difference between the sentences I'm saying. This is the number which you are dividing, but this is the number by which you are dividing. So the number by which you are dividing is negative, then you need to flip the sign. So here there is no need to flip the sign. So this is going to be negative 5 is greater than or equal to b. Now you can leave it like that, or if you want to graph, you can simply flip the sign and write it like that. b is less than or equal to negative 5. Here I flipped because I need to bring the variable in front. Else, even if you're leaving it like this, it's completely fine. That's perfectly fine if you leave the inequality like this. But if you are graphing, it's always better you write it like that. Okay, so this is going to be d divided by 3 is greater than 6, which means what? Divided by 3. With the opposite of divide is multiply. So what are we going to do? D is greater than 6 multiplied by 3, which means D is greater than 18. So D can be any number greater than 18. It can be 19, 20, 100, 150, any number, but it should be greater than 18. That's what this inequality means. Well, I think you need to pause the video here, try the two questions by yourself, and then check the answer. That'll be much better, and then that'll help you learn your mistakes too, if you have any. Well, if you have paused the video and if you've done the questions, which I hope you would have, else there is no point in just watching the video, just me solving. I will learn more, not you. So it's better you solve. So if you have solved, all what you're going to do is check your answers. So this means 9 multiplied by s is greater than negative 80. 9s means 9 multiplied by s, right? So which means the opposite of multiply is divide. So we are going to divide negative 18 by 9. Again here, we did not flip, but we are dividing a negative number. But I told you the number, not the number you are dividing, the number by which you divide should be negative. So the number with which we are dividing is positive here, so there is nothing to worry. So s is greater than negative 2. Now you might be confused. Why did the 9 become not negative when it moved to the other side? The signs change of the numbers only during multiplying and only during adding and subtracting. During multiplying and dividing, the sign stays the same. They don't change. Only during adding and subtracting, the signs change. So this one here, 4 over 5 is greater or equal to r divided by 2. Now r divided by 2, which means the opposite of multiply is divide is multiply, which means we are going to multiply 4 over 5 with 2, which is greater or equal to r. Now you might notice that the denominator is missing here. So which means the denominator is going to be 1. Now you cannot divide the numerator and denominator with 2. No, because we are dealing with fractions. Fractions cannot be like 2 over 2. No, it cannot be. So which means when you're multiplying it as a fraction. So the fraction for 2 is going to be 2 over 1. It cannot be 2 over 2, right? So when you solve this, you're going to get 8 over 5, which is greater than or equal to r. Now, if you can see, this is not a proper fraction. Now, well, it's fine to leave it like that if you're graphing, but if you think you need to change it, you're going to change it into a mixed number. So to change it into a mixed number, you have to divide 8 by 5. That will give you 1, 3 over 5 is greater or equal to r. Or r is less than or equal to 1, 3 over 5. So I'm sure you must have not forgotten how to change it into a mixed fraction number. 1 becomes the numerator, 3 becomes the denominator, and 3 becomes the numerator, and 5 stays the denominator. So r is less than or equal to 1, 3 over 5. 2 more questions for you. I think you need to pause here, try it out by yourself. So if you have paused and if you have tried, well done. That's a very good try. But else, you need to definitely pause the video and do it by yourself. So this is going to be d divided by negative 6 is less than 1/2, which means divided by 6, which means if when it moves to the other side, it becomes multiplied by negative 6, right? So d is less than 1/2 multiplied by negative 6. Hold on, am I doing it right? I am multiplying it by negative 6 and then I did not flip the sign, which is very important. I need to flip the sign. So you have to be very careful when you're solving this because you're multiplying with a negative 6, right? So you have to flip the sign. So d is going to be greater or equal to negative 6 over 2, which means d is greater than negative 3. Okay, now let's do question number 14. This question here. Negative 10h is greater or equal to negative 6, which means negative 10 multiplied by h means it's going to be divided. So h is going to be greater than or equal to negative 6 multiplied by negative 10. Am I doing it right? Well, no, I need to flip the sign. Why am I flipping the sign? Because I am dividing with the negative 10 on this side. So when it moves to the other side, it needs to flip, as well as it needs to be negative 6 divided by negative 10, not multiplied by negative 10, right? So here we know that the negative and negative sign gets cancelled. It can automatically cancel with each other. But then this is not in the simplest form. So we need to simplify this. So we are simplifying it with a 2. So h is less than or equal to 3 over 5. So this is how you need to solve. You need to take a bit care, extra care. Only then you can get the answer right without any mistake. Only take care that there any number which you are multiplying or dividing is negative. So in fact, a tip I can give you is if a negative number is with the letter, that means you need to divide the other side with the negative sign, which means the sign will flip. So you need to take care. Okay, so a problem solving. Tom saved $550 to go on a school trip. The cost for a hotel room, including tax, is 80 per night. So the cost of the hotel is 80 per night. What are the possible number of nights Tom can stay at the hotel? So he is having $550. Okay, so he needs to stay for some nights, but for one night it's $80, which means the cost for one night is 80. So if he's staying for 2 nights, it's going to be 160. If he's going to stay for 3 nights, that's going to be $240. But we have to write an inequality to find that out. So to write the inequality, we start by saying 80 because that's $80 per night. We don't know how many nights is he going to stay. So let's name it as n. Okay, should be less than or equal to 550. Now, what reason do you think? Why did I choose less than or equal to 550? Can you think of any reason why did I choose this? Well, maybe you're right. Because he has only $550. Okay. How can he spend more than $550? He cannot. He has to spend 550 or less than 550. Right? That's the maximum amount he could spend. Nothing more than five. Like for example, if you have thousand like if you have okay, say $100 and you go to the store to buy some food and you bought for 150, do you think the store owner will give you the things? Of course not. You have to buy something less than 100 or 100. So the same here, he has 550, so it is 80 per night, so which means he has to spend 550, which is equal or less than 550. So this is going to be n is less than or equal to 550 divided by 80. Okay, so this is going to give us, so it's going to be, we can cancel off the zeros here. So that means 55 divided by 8. That's going to give us 6.8. Okay, so it's going to be something like 6.8, but we are counting the number of days, right? So how can the days be in 6.8? So we consider it as a 6 days. So he can stay for 6 days. But here we need to write the answer as like 6. Why did I write 8? Let's write the answer first and then we will so days cannot be at 6.8 days, right? So we consider the days as 6. So how many days he can stay? How many nights can he stay? So Tom can stay he can stay 0 nights, 1 night, 2 nights. 0 night means he can choose not to stay, right? So 3 nights, 4 nights, 5 nights, or 6 nights. He cannot stay more than 6 nights because the amount of money which he has doesn't allow him to, or he can choose not to stay 0 days, right? So Tom can stay 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 nights. Let's go back to solving. So pause the video, do pause the video, try to do it. Take 5 minutes, that's okay. That will only add up to your practice, but try to do it by yourself. So pause the video here, pause, press the button, do it. Okay, so if you have done, let's check the answers. So this is W is great. W divided by 4 is greater or equal to -2. So divided by 4, which means you need to multiply either side with 4. So W is greater or equal to -2 multiplied by 4. Now you might be wondering, why did I not change the sign? I told you the number with which you are multiplying or dividing should be negative, not the number which is already on the other side of the sign. The number which we are moving, or number which we are changing the side, should be negative. So the number which we are changing the side here is positive. So sign stays the same. This is going to be -8. So W is greater or equal to -8. Well, here h divided by 4 is less than or equal to 2 over 7, which means h less than or equal to 2 over 7 multiplied by 4 over 1, as we are multiplying a fraction. And so this is going to give us 8 over 7. So you choose to leave the inequality like this, that's fine, but it's perfectly fine if you do this. H is less than or equal to 1 over 7. Okay, so here again it's 6 multiplied by y less than 4.2, which means y is less than 4.2 divided by 6. So y is going to be less than 0.7. And this is mental math. It's like 42 divided by 6 is 7, but we have a decimal, so we place the decimal, right? 4, 7. Okay, so the last problem solved. The rope Rose brought with her camping gear is 54 inches long. So the rope is 54 inches long. Rose needs to cut shorter pieces of rope that are each 18 inches long. So she has a very long rope, which is 54, and she needs to cut them into smaller, which is 18. Each rope size should be 18 after cutting. What are the possible number of pieces Rose can cut? So the measure of each piece Rose wants is 18. We don't know how many number of pieces can she cut. So let's name that as P. So it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be, we don't know. We have to find that out. Should be less than or equal to 54 because the length rope is 54. So if it is 54, how can you cut something more than 54? You can't. So it should be less than or equal to 54, which means 54 divided by 18. Now this is going to give us, well, you might use the calculator, but it is always advisable not to use it. Oops, this is 54. 3 18s will give you 54, which means P is less than or equal to 3, which means how many pieces of rope can Rose get? She can cut 3 pieces, 2 pieces, or 1 piece of rope. Right? So because P is less than or equal to 3, which means P can be 3. So she can cut 3, she can cut 2, or she can cut 1. 0 means she doesn't choose to cut that, right? So it's totally up to her. She wants to cut or she doesn't want to cut. But they're asking what are the possible number of pieces. So she can cut 3 pieces, 2 pieces, or 1 piece. So that's your lesson for today. It's also easy. Hopefully you have done the answers correct and you have solved it by yourself and got the answers right. So stay tuned for your homework answers. We will get them after some time, but hopefully you will get them right too. So see you all again in the next video.